What's good, YouTube? Steel here, and today's video is one of my favorites to make, as with every new set I would like to go card by card, ranking where I believe will fall in the meta. There will be some good takes, there will also be a bunch of swing and misses. It's all in good fun though, as like the goal is essentially to break down the set as well as seeing how good I am at judging cards. As always, feel free to comment down below your thoughts on not only my list but where you agree or don't agree. Regardless, I try to look at every comment, I try to answer everything, so good or bad, feel free to comment down below. And before we begin, if you're new here, I go by Men of Steel. I post everything Pokemon Pocket, from set reviews to expert solo battle guides and everything in between. And if any of that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing, as with every new set there will be a bunch of content releasing in the coming weeks. But enough self-promoting, this set has 155 cards, so buckle up and let's get right into it. So before I get right into the cards, I do want to break down the tier list. It is essentially the same as I've done in past videos. We have the broken, we have good, we have playable. What I did change was I used to have, where it says mid right now, I used to have fun rogue, but it started kind of intertwining with playable. Like a fun rogue is technically playable. It's just a matter of like I guess point of view. So instead of everything that's gonna be fun or rogue or playable is gonna fall under that middle category. And then we have mid, when a card's not terrible, but it's not something I would use. And I guess we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll start adding it. I almost added a final category of just fluff, but basically fluff is going to be anything that we don't put into the tier list directly. Starting with this execute, as you'll see down below, there's going to be timestamps throughout all the Pokemon. So if you want to jump to a certain part, I'm going to go through types. So it's going to be grass types, then fires, waters, etc., etc. So that'll make it easier to view if you want to see a specific thing. Otherwise, we're just going to go straight down the line, and that starts with execute. As we see here, we have our third execute, I believe. Might be a fourth if I'm missing one, but it's just 2 energy, rolling tackle, does 30 damage. When you have the best executor, it continues to be the EX that for 1 mana starts doing 40. I don't see this one seeing too much play, but I also don't see it being relevant, which execute you end up using. It does have 60 HP, so maybe that's something to think about. It was getting knocked out a lot by Skarmories, Carnivines, etc. So as far as execute goes, it's playable, I guess, but realistically, Pokemon like this that aren't the actual attacker, I don't tend to make it onto my list. So just jump into Alolan Executor. As we can see here, we have 3 energy, Tropical Hammer, does 150. Flip a coin, if tails, this attack does nothing. It being a stage 1, it needing 3 energy, it retreating for 4. This card is mid, and it might go to bad depending on how it ends up as it goes along. If we see that too many cards are falling into mid, this might quickly fall into bad. But from there, we go to Surskit, which is a quick attack, flip a coin. Surskit falls under those cards where it doesn't really matter what Surskit does. What we actually look at is what it evolves into, which in this case is Masquerain, which is essentially it's just what's it called? A Ninetales, right? Not Ninetales. Rapidash. Stage 1 for 90 HP that deals 40. I'm not too sure if Grass already had one, but again, this is 1-to-1 a card that already existed all the way back in Genetic Apex. So that's why I kind of wanted to put that 6th slot of just fluff. I'm not even gonna put this on the tier list. It's just, they're just filling the cards with there's 155 cards in the set, and they don't need to be. It's the long story short of it, at least in my opinion, right? Now we have Maractus, 2 energy Sting. So it's a basic. These are all cards that essentially, I guess you would put it, if you had to rank it, you would put it in bad. Nobody's gonna play this. All right, so live pivot, we just added another category here, fluff, and we're gonna add everything that's just filling up the pack with cards into that area. We'll see at the end how many are actually ranked or new. Some, even if they're bad, I would prefer it to be a new card that's bad than just a remake of something that is just filling up the pack. Okay, so we have Carablast, Headbutt for 10 that evolves into, I think it's Scavalier, so we'll see what it does eventually. Then we have their favorite thing to do, which is basically a 60 HP basic that does 20 damage. Again, let's see what it evolves into, which in this case is Trevenant, 3 energy, Claw Slash, 80. So it's a stage 1. Again, stage 1's completely plummeted, I believe, in my personal opinion, due to the existence of rare candy, where you could essentially skip stage 1s, or stage 2s are just as effective as stage 1s in terms of how fast you could get to them. Granted, it's still a 3-card combo, right? But yeah, something like this, 130, just doing 80 for 3 energy. Rather slow, and then it's impossible to retreat, so I'm gonna go with bad here, which makes me believe this executor probably lands on the same. Let's just put both of them in bad. I don't see them being played at all. And then we jump into Rowlet. There's 2 versions of Rowlet. There's this one, which is again the standard, their favorite go-to basic, 60 HP, 20 damage. And then we have this one that has Skill Dive that does 10 damage just anywhere. Realistically, if you're playing a deck like the Rowlet deck, that's the Decidueye, which we'll get to, is able to damage anything anywhere as long as it's hurt. I definitely believe this is the way to go. You would definitely use this Rowlet as playable, and then I don't want to hate on the standard one. It just doesn't do anything special. It's just your standard means to an end. So I'm not gonna hate on the other one, but I definitely believe this one. I'll even put it in good due to what it evolves into eventually, right? Then we have the second form, which is almost irrelevant in the sense that with Rare Candy, you could just only play one copy. You could play 0 copies. Although that may be a little greedy. Realistically, this card could have done absolutely nothing, and it's probably just see just as much or just as little play. So the actual card is Decidueye, which for 2 energy, 2 colorless. So it doesn't matter what you're playing with. Whether that becomes relevant or not is time will tell, of course. We have Pierce the Pain. Does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon that has damage on it. That's why the other Rowlet, like the Rowlet that could spread 10 damage, even though 10 damage is very like minimal, I believe is like more playable than the other one. And then we just have a standard 2 energy Razor Leaf that on a stage 2 kind of feels weak. However, the fact that you could Rare Candy this out and then you can start spreading 100 damage anywhere with colorless, I believe this card's gonna be good. It's definitely better than the Rowlet, but my tier list don't really don't go by like, oh, this is like the top of good tier, the top of B tier, or whatever. It's just if I think you're good, you go in the good pile. Don't pay too much attention of where they're landing. It's basically just in order. I do believe this is a good card. I'm looking forward to playing it. I yet to have a second copy, right? I opened a whole bunch of packs. I did not pull 2 of these, so far I've not yet tried it myself. In the solo battle guides that I try, I've been testing out a few decks. This is one of the harder ones to take down, granted it being the first one. However, big fan of this card, and let's just move on to the next one. We got Grubbin, standard stuff. Again, their favorite. You're gonna see it a lot, right? 60 HP. Technically, this would all fall under fluff, but again, when it evolves into something, it feels less, I guess, offensive. So we jump into Lurantis, which is something that the expert solo battle of Decidueye loves to use. It's for 1 energy, just deals 20 damage all over the place, like spreads 20 damage to everything. It works great with Decidueye. It's just good in general. The 20 damage doesn't really add up to much. It's basically, would you just play Spiritomb? I guess is the issue. Is the reason why I would put this in mid, because it's not a bad card, but if you're gonna like dedicate a space to something that just spreads damage, why would you take up 4 slots or multiple slots in a stage 1 and evolution if you could just go Spiritomb and spread damage that way? Whether you don't play, whether you don't think Spiritomb's a good card, that just ends up being like where you don't play either, right? But I don't see a world where you would play this over Spiritomb, especially when we have 20 card decks and the card pool that goes into these decks gets ever so expands even so greatly, where you don't really have space for a card like this, at least in my opinion, right? Then we have a new Morlo. I don't even remember what the old one did, but again, means to an end, so I'm not gonna hate on it. We have a new Shiinotic, 2 energy, flickering light, 50 damage, flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn. It's technically bad, right? We could technically fast forward to see what because there is a trainer card that works with this specifically. If anything, we'll go back and up it to mid if I feel once we read the trainer card that it makes the Shiinotic any better. But for now, it's pretty bad. I don't see anybody actually using this. Again, means to an end. Stage 1 cards tend to not be that important. This is a bad card though, in my opinion. But I'm not gonna rank it because it means to an end. And usually, and even now, you could just skip it with Rare Candy. Okay, so the real card that we have to measure here is Serena. 3-kick combo, 1 energy, 1 grass energy. So it's great with Rare Candy. These cards that don't require too much energy as much. Because if you Rare Candy something like Charizard, you still need to build it up, right? Granted, I'm talking about Genetic Apex Charizard. You still need to build it up slowly. So Rare Candy does make it more consistent or faster to bring out. But if you don't have Moltres giving it multiple energy, then it doesn't really matter. Cards like this definitely benefit from Rare Candy every time. So yeah, flip 3 coins. This does 20 for each heads. I don't like coin flips, but I can see this card being useful, especially even solo battle guides and stuff. And I keep saying guides. In solo battles, it'll be used. It could be used. I could see it as being mid. It's not that great. There's a bunch of cards that do what it does better. And I'm just not a fan of coin flips, right? So on to the next one. We got Wimpod. During your first turn, this Pokemon has no retreat cost. I guess this is one of those where it depends. I actually love that ability. That ability is great, right? That's one thing. But what it matters is what it evolves into, which is the Golisopod. 3 energy, first impression. If this Pokemon moved from your bench to the active spot this turn, this attack does 60 or more, so it totals up to 120. I'm gonna go with mid on this one. A borderline bad. I guess like what makes it mid is the fact that the turn you basically guarantee having the basic form in the bench, so you're almost guaranteeing always hitting for 120. But it's only that one time right now. This card is terrible because it only hits for 120 once, and after that it's just hitting for 60 constantly, and you're not gonna be bringing this back and forth, at least not on paper, because like, yeah, I don't know, terrible, right? Okay, now we have our first actually no, this is not our first. I guess the first EX that wasn't in like that we weren't expecting, I guess, it's Delmai's EX. 3 energy, anchor shot, 80 damage. During your opponent's next turn to the phone point. So it's basically corner, like the same attack that Arbok had in Genetic Apex and the Houndoom had, and are those the only two that have corner in Pokemon Pocket? Regardless, it's essentially corner, so whatever you're hitting has to stay there. This has to be, in my opinion, playable. Technically, you could ramp it with like a Leafeon, or just slowly, little by little. It's borderline mid. It's definitely more mid than it is good, right? But I'll leave it at playable because cards effects like corner are always good, and I don't know. It's hard to hate on an EX. We've had some really bad ones. This one's not the worst, so I'll leave it at playable. You kind of have to like diverse what we rate right here. So now we have Tapu Bulu. Which is 3 energy, stuck in tackle, 100 damage, flip a coin. If tails, it does 20 to itself. Essentially, if this was a water Pokemon, it would replace Origin Form immediately, because doing a consistent 100 is so much better than like the 60. So I guess I would put this on playable, not unplayable, in playable, because if there's a meta, granted, Origin Form does have a Manaphy that makes it somewhat like a little bit better, but just going by generic stats, a basic Pokemon that for 3 energy is doing 100 damage consistently has to be pretty decent. So I'm gonna respect it as such and treat it as such. So that's it for the grass Pokemon. As you can see, there's a lot less fluff than I anticipated, so I'm a little happy about that. It's like, but I'm glad that I added fluff because it gives me a better picture of like what's going on as a whole. And let's jump into fire type Pokemon. Now that y'all have like a better idea of how the breakdown goes or how the rating goes, I'm gonna start going a little faster, as again, we do have 155 cards to go through. And as we see here, Growlithe, 2 energy, 30 damage. It's basically a means to an end, like I've been saying earlier. Arcanine, 130, 3 energy, 80. At least it doesn't hurt itself. It does get buffed by Blaine, but doing 3 energy, I'm gonna go with mid. I don't want to call it bad because Blaine does make this hit for one. Actually, no, the Ninetales is just better, right? Okay, just bad card. Let's speed through. I don't want to speed through them, but like, you know, I don't want to waste too much time on a card like Alolan Marowak that might not see any play besides like a Mega Mogwai video. And other than that, like, yeah. So Burning Boomerang, Bone Meringue. Flip 2 coins. This attack does 70 damage for each heads. If at least one of them is heads, your opponent is now burned. But if it's none of its heads, you don't burn, you don't damage, you don't do nothing. It's 3 energy. There is a trainer card that adds 2 energy, but it ends the turn, so it's like a worse Faulkner. So it's essentially bad. I wanted to put it in mid because I love the artwork of the 1-star version, but it's just not it. Means to an end. Talonflame, I'm gonna go with playable. Technically you could cheat this out with is it playable? Like, would you play it? Would I play it? I'm gonna go with mid. It could be worse, but technically you could bring this out with Rare Candy. For 2 energy is doing 90. It's only a 1-pointer, so that's pretty decent. But again, there's so many cards that are doing so much better that a lot of these like stage 2s that aren't EXs start to fall off just because although there are 1-pointer, are they doing enough? And HP totals keep going up, stuff like that. Cards like these, although on paper or maybe earlier in the game would have been a little bit better, I don't see them doing nothing right now. Litten, just like Rowlet, has 2 different versions. We have this version, which is Heat Tackle, 30, does 10 to itself. And then, before we judge it, we got the standard. They love putting the standard ones of just 60, 20 HP. I actually feel this one is also good. It falls under... Because just like the Rowlet, these Pokemon are meant to enable their final forms. So being able to go Litten, attack, and then use I'm blanking out here, but a Rare Candy, jump into Incineroar, which we'll get into again. Being able to do it's extra damage, which we'll see. So yeah, point is, this is good, and you just gotta trust me, all right? Take my word for it for now. Again, this is the standard version. Now we have Torracat, which does more of the same. So unlike the second form of Rowlet, which honestly I didn't think was doing too much, Torracat I see could be playable because you go, let's say you're going first with Litten, you start Litten, they go past whatever, your turn, you could evolve Torracat and then still enable the final form. So I do like Torracat. It's definitely much better than what I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry, the second form of Rowlet does. And then it's all a means to an end to get to Incineroar EX, which is Fire Fang. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned for 30. 1 energy, that's fine. It's probably the essential, like what you're gonna do the most if you rare candy into it like rather early. But once it has 3 energy, if it has any amount of damage on it, it does 140, which is exactly what Infernape is doing. So being able to do that and not lose your energy, you consistently do that damage. All you need to do is have your own damage. They can't even play around it because your 2 forms before the Incineroar is doing like self-pinging just slightly with 10 damage. So you could still add Cape to this and you'd be like 190. So honestly, I do believe this is good. I don't know about broken. Granted, time will tell again, because hitting 140 and having as much HP as Incineroar does with rare candy in the format might be great. However, you still get knocked out by Charizard and stuff like that. So who knows, which in my opinion is going to be much more popular than decks like this. Then we have Oricorio here. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I don't even know what I just said. 2 energy Kindle, 40 damage, discard a random energy from both active Pokemon, so it's going to be itself and your opponent. The only way this would be like super good is if it like guaranteed sniped like a Psychic from a Giratina and stalled it for a turn, but realistically more often than not this is going to be mid. It's not bad because technically its effect is interesting and it's something that we will or probably will see more of going forward in Pokemon, like ways to manipulate energy. We already saw it with Team Rocket, we saw it with Beedrill, we saw it with Gyarados, although Gyarados was completely random, right? So seeing effects like this, we're going to see it more and more. I think this is a step in like an interesting step, I guess, in a certain direction. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I wouldn't call this a bad card. It's just more often than not, it's not going to get the job done. Now we have another Salandit, and now here we have the first card that I saw once I read this that does both, that gives 2 status effects on 1 attack. So 2 energy, heated poison. Your opponent's active Pokemon is not poisoned and burned. I honestly don't know. I want to put this in playable. I mean, in playable. I don't know why those things sound so familiar, and every time I pronounce it, I confuse myself. So I want to put it in playable because I want to see, like, imagine you're hitting them for 30, and then the following turn they're taking 30 damage, right? 10 from poison, 20 from burning. I'm assuming it stacks. Granted, we're in a meta where people have Pokemon Center Lady. Man, it's gonna fall under mid, unfortunately. We have Pokemon Center Lady. We have a new item that heals status conditions. Not both. Like, technically in this case, it would heal one or the other. But we also have cards like Arceus that I don't know how relevant it'll be in this format, but it does not care about status conditions and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, stuff like that honestly falls in the way. But if we didn't have so many ways to deal with status condition, I do believe this would be a great card. And then the final fire Pokemon in the set, we have Turtonator, which is 3 energy Fire Spin, discard a fire energy from this Pokemon, does that 90 damage, starts falling towards the same spot as Origin Form Palkia and stuff. Again, the issue with this one though is how likely are you to get so much fire energy on it. But again, I'm a respect it and treat these cards. I guess I'm giving these cards too much credit due to how off I was. I put Palkia on like unplayable. I thought the card was terrible, and I was wrong. I was very wrong, and I admit it. And I'm now a huge fan of Origin Form Palkia. But I guess that how bad I was with these is leading me to be a little too like favorable with these cards. Regardless, it's a tier list for a reason, and it's like my tier list for a reason. So that's where I have it for now. Granted, if we see too many cards fall under playable, this might go into mid. But for now, that was the fire Pokemon in this set. And once again, realistically, there was no fluff outside of like, you know, like the evolution lines. Again, I'd say these are a means to an end. So actually, I'm standing corrected so far. They're not putting as much fluff as I thought about. Still, 155 cards is ridiculous. And let's go on to the next one, water types. All right, so now looking at water Pokemon, once again, we have their favorite, 68 HP, $20 attack basic. That leads into a Alolan Sandslash, 100 HP. One energy attack, spike armor, 20 damage during your opponent's next turn. If this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, do 40 damage to the attacking Pokemon. I'll put it in mid rather than a bad card. It's pretty bad, right? Because technically it's stage 1. Yeah, it's bad. I like the idea of it. I like the concept. It's not fluff. Like it is technically it's essentially the same thing as like a Rapidash, but there's like more to it, right? That's what I'm talking about. Like when I rather cards like this than a card that would have been 90 HP, 40 damage. So it's still not good, but I like that it's a little different, right? Maybe I'm just being picky. Here we have Alolan Vulpix, which with the call forth 60 HP, it just ramps itself. So far, we've had multiple cards like this. We had a Magmar that does it. We had an Electabuzz that does it. None of them have seen play. However, it always depends on what they build up to. And in this case, we have Alolan Ninetales with Blizzard, 60 damage. This is like, we've seen Frostlass use this. We've seen, I don't want to call it's technically fluff, right? We've seen this card before. It's not done anything. Yeah, just on to the next one, I guess. We have Shelter, standard, 70 HP though, so I guess it does less. They kind of like, it's the same, it's more of the same. Then we have Cloyster, 110 HP, Guard Press, 2 energy, 50. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 damage from attacks. This is just bad, right? This is in a world with rare candy where other cards are going to be put up just as fast and doing so much more. And 3 retreat costs, you can't even get it out of there. Shout out to my boy Turtle, big fan of this card, but artwork wise, the card itself, terrible. Then we have one of the like nicest arts I've seen in a common card in Pokemon Pocket, which is this Lapras. However, 3 energy Surf. I guess you start. Actually, no, there's no way. Like I was about to say, like maybe you start leaning like, oh, I rather guaranteed 70 than the coin flip of. But no, you would play Articuno from Genetic Apex before this, right? So this almost lands on fluff, but because of the artwork, I won't put it in fluff. I'll put it in bad. Nice. This is fluff. This is fluff. There's absolutely nothing new, and it's not better than anything we already have. Popplio, just like the other 3 starters, has 2 different versions. However, unlike the other 3 starters, it does not lead to an EX. So we have just Sing, your opponent's active is now asleep, and then the standard. Realistically, we've seen multiple cards have this effect. Outside of Jigglypuff, the promo version, nobody's really like experimented with this or had success with these cards. So honestly, this is like the first one where I wouldn't even put it in good or playable or anything. It is a means to an end, which leads to Rion, which is 1 energy Waste Slash, again, just a means to an end. Although this is the one that you most likely rare candy to every time. Like you do not, like the middle ground is as least interesting as possible. But Primarina itself, I want to say this is a, where is Primarina in my list here? I'm going to put it in playable. I want to put it in good because of the healing factor. Healing, you may heal 3 damage from each of your water Pokemon. It doesn't even need to have an energy on it. Honestly, this has to be good. Whether it sees play or not might come down to where the format lies. But in a format where you could fit this with rare candy and put this down, like if Greninja is valid, dealing 20 damage here and there, being able to heal a constant 30 every turn, I guess, you know what? I'm going to put it in playable. And the reason I'm going to do that is because in a format where all your Pokemon are getting one shot, this heal 30 doesn't matter. However, let's say if Darkrai was like if Gyarados had this format ago, then it gets too clunky, right? I don't know. I'm gonna put it in playable because the concept is good. However, it being a stage 2, I know there's rare candy, but do you want to use rare candy on a healer, or do you rather use it on like a Greninja that's dealing spread damage? Or so you can see where I'm at in the terms of why I don't want to commit to it being good, right? Now we have I don't know why I cannot pronounce this card. I know exactly what it's supposed to sound like, exactly how to say it. My tongue refuses to like work when I pronounce this. But regardless, it's 1 energy, 160 HP, insatiable striking, 40 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon's insatiable striking, it does 40 extra, does 80 guaranteed. Honestly, if Executor has seen the success it has, this has to be broken. Maybe I'm wrong. Honestly, Executor is one of those cards where at first I didn't care for it. Then it became one of my favorite cards. Then it became a pain I hated the card. And now it's like sort of like in a limbo between like it's okay, I don't mind it in terms of like it's still annoying, right? But I saw some of my best success in the Triumphant Light meta with it, and I don't see how this could be any worse, or like how this could not be good. With 160 HP, doing a constant 80 after the first initial 40, you just have to look at it like you don't have the high roll, but once after that, you're high rolling every turn. So realistically, until Executor EX gets proven like that it's not good enough, this is gonna be good enough. And with so many cards to heal water, so many cards to add like Giantscape to mix this to 180, like this is huge. And no matter where maybe we start seeing fire decks all over the place with people trying to use rare candy on Charizard, Incineroar, Infernape, and all that stuff, you never know how good this is gonna be. But I believe it's honestly broken. Now we have Wishy-Washy, which call for family, puts a random Wishy-Washy or Wishy-Washy EX from your deck to your bench. Being able to search an EX is kind of fire. I think it's like the first card that does it. However, it being 30 HP, rather like how many times are you gonna use this call for family and it not just completely get obliterated, which leads to Wishy-Washy EX. So Wishy-Washy EX 3. It is searchable, as you just saw, but it does for 3 energy, School Storm 30 plus. This does 40 more for each benched Wishy-Washy and Wishy-Washy EX. The concept, I understand what they're going for. It goes perfectly well with like the video game in the terms of like, you know, you have the initial one and then it becomes a huge whale and it's a whole thing. I honestly think the entire concept is pretty mid and borderline bad. I don't want to call it bad because it is an EX and, you know, it has 170 HP. But at max value, it's doing, I think, 150. Right, 40, it'd be 120 on the bench, 30 plus. And if you started with the other one, like if you start with the Wishy-Washy, you're not doing much. But if you started with this one, then you're also not doing much because you have to build it up to 3. But if you play Manaphy, then that's one spot that you don't have Wishy-Washy in. Like the more I talk about it, the worse it gets. However, there's like this bad pile is so bad that I'm gonna respect Wishy-Washy a little bit and leave it under mid. But essentially, it's I'm telling you it's bad, right? Then we have Dupiter, means to an end. However, Araquanid. What makes Araquanid good is the fact that there's literally, I think it's Lana, or there's a trainer card that literally says, if this card, if you control this card, it doesn't have to be your active, it could be in your bench. You have a Sabrina that lets you pick. It's like a Sabrina Cyrus fusion that's just insane. However, it is dependent on you having this card, so it's like, is that card so good that you play this, or is this card good enough that you play that? Like I don't know. So let's read this card. 3 energy, Dangerous Claw, 60 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, it does 60 more. So realistically, you're swinging for 120 because you will essentially use the trainer card to bring out whatever basic that they have. However, I guess this card on its own would probably be pretty mid, but the fact that it's tied to like one of those broken trainer cards on paper, you have to put it under playable, in my opinion. Again, that's this entire video is my opinion. Feel free to comment down below whether you agree or don't agree in any takes I make in this video. I know it's going to be a longer video, and I apologize for that. But again, water Pokemon tend to be one of the longer lists, so hopefully it speeds up after this. We are a third of the way in terms of how many Pokemon, how many cards are left. But again, I'll try to speed up. Here we have Pyukumuku. I don't know, whatever. Let's pretend like I pronounced that correctly. Ability, enters out. If this Pokemon is in your active spot and knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, do 50 damage to that attacking Pokemon. So it's basically, wait, I don't. So technically, if they knock it out, it deals 50 back to whatever knocks it out. But as far as otherwise, it's just your generic basic Pokemon of 60 HP, 20. Honestly, pretty mid. I don't want to call it bad because it's an interesting ability. It's something that I feel like they're releasing it like this, seeing how much or how little it does, and they'll expand on it in the future. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. Then we have Fluff here. So where you? It's a bad card, but we'll put it in Fluff. It's just a basic Pokemon that nobody's gonna use. And then we have Tapu Fini. 3 energy, Spiral Drain, 60, heal 20 damage from this Pokemon. Honestly, this is the one Tapu, I believe. If I didn't misread the ones before, that's just gonna be Fluff. You wouldn't play this over Palkia. I feel like Palkia being able to have the high roll of hitting for 120 is a lot better than this. Articuno being able to paralyze where you're attacking is better than this. And yeah, essentially it's a copy of a card that already exists and like a worse version, in my opinion. So that's why I believe it's Fluff. If not to just call it bad, but it's hard to call it bad because it is just another version of a playable card. So technically it's playable. It's just, it wouldn't be my first choice. So that's why it's just Fluff, cards that don't need to be in the set, or they could have given it a different effect. So let's jump to the next type. All right, now we're going to electric types. We have Pikachu. This is probably, I'll go as far as saying as a bad Pikachu. It is colorless though, so you could technically build it up into something, but the main reason, or the main part of that Pikachu's existence is the fact that you have a Alolan Raichu, which is 3 colorless energy psychic, 60 plus, and does 30 per damage for each energy attached. So essentially, it's a Gardevoir EX that could essentially, it's what I mean is a Gardevoir EX that starts climbing, like it hits higher. Like if, let's say, at what point, right? So technically, when it's hitting something for 1 energy, it's matched, right? It's 70 plus 20, but then anything after that, you're hitting higher than a Gardevoir, which would be most of the time. However, you are a stage 1, so before Rare Candy, you would have the edge. But all this to say that this card is good. This card is very good. I wouldn't say broken because there's cards that essentially do the same thing, or the fact that it's 140 HP makes it easier to knock out than other cards that do the same thing. But honestly, very good card. I could see the fact that it's 3 colorless. I could see Dialga maybe use this. I could see it being used in like random strategies that mana fees in. Like this, not this. The sky is not the limit, but it has a very high ceiling. And now we go Alolan Geodude. Means to an end. They love giving Geodudes like these slow, golems, these slow buildups where there's not a perfect curve. Like maybe later on they'll release an Alolan Geodude that only attacks in 1 energy and you have a perfect curve. But yeah, also an issue with these Gravelers is that we don't have Brock. Like it doesn't work with Brock, right? So we don't have, the Golem, right? But we do have a curve of like 2, 3, 4, and the 4 comes in Alolan Golem. Super Zap Cannon, 150, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Honestly, this is, in my opinion, it's just bad. I wish it was better, but I just don't see it. Yeah, you'll hit 150 once, and then what? I know there's a trainer card that goes with it, so once we read that, if it happens to make this better, I will adjust my rating. But yeah, hitting 150 once and then like not being able to do it again, and being in the situation, it is a 1-pointer. I'll go mid. Let's go mid, and then if it's playable, it'll be because of that trainer card. I just don't know what it does like word for word. Means to an end. Actually, a worse means to an end. It only hits for 10. It is colorless though, so it's stable. Like it's generic. I guess this allows any deck to have an electric answer in it, in the form of like a Rapidash, but that could, I don't know. Realistically, it feels bad putting this one in fluff because it is, however, it is colorless, so you can stick this into any deck and give any deck some form of like a little aggression in the electric type. Like regardless of what your Pokemons are, you have an ability to hit some like stuff for weakness. So fluff isn't what I would call this. I would put this in playable for that reason. I know it sounds crazy. It goes against everything I've said, but having the option to put this in any deck makes it a little bit better. I guess I'll go mid. Yeah, it's not fluff because it is rather generic and it's a step above Rapidash. Like a genetic Apex card is what I'm trying to say. Because Rapidash is obviously better because of Blaine and all that, but we're not talking about that. Alright, enough about a card that doesn't matter. Let's go to Charjabug, which evolves from the Grubbin that we saw like eons ago in the grass types. Again, means to an end, which is the Vikavolt. 2 energy, disconnect, 70 damage. During your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. And also, it's a clear note. It says item cards, not trainer cards, so they could still use their supporters. But technically, they wouldn't be able to use Pokeball. They wouldn't be able to use their tool cards. No Pokemon communication. There's a lot of item cards in this set. So imagine in a world where you had like, you're able to set up this and Gengar, which one's better? I would put playable because anything that's anti-meta is decent, I guess. It's better than mid. It just depends on the fact that you can still use your supporters. I guess it depends what deck you're going against, right? But 140 HP for a 1-pointer. You could essentially put this down with Rare Candy and put it to 2 energy rather quickly, especially if you're going second. So yeah, it's not a bad card, and I think it's above mid. Being anything that's like a floodgate to an extent has to be good to some extent, right? Speaking of floodgates, we have Oricorio again, but the electric version or the lightning version. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's EX Pokemon. So imagine last set if you were going against Giratina Darkrai, they have no way of dealing damage other than charging that Darkrai. And then if you just heal up, they're never taking this down. So honestly, this, well, I don't know if I say broken because it is meta dependent. Like in a meta where, let's say, if you're playing this card and you go against a Masquerada, yeah, a Masquerada, like what do you do? Hit them for 50, and then what? So it is definitely good. It's meta dependent. I'm sure, like people will adjust to this. Like they won't just completely blindly, or they just like they'll go ranked, the mindset of ranked, where you just play the deck you want to play, and it's more of like, it's more quality over quantity. I mean, quantity over quality. So you just play a bunch of games, and if you happen to see this, you just scoop it up, and other than that, you just keep going with your day. But yeah, definitely a good card. I wouldn't say broken because people could either adapt, or the meta could just completely warp in a way where this card doesn't do anything. Then we have Togedemaru. 1 energy, Electro Smash, 20 plus, flip a coin. It could potentially do 50. I'll go with mid because it does have the ceiling where it could knock out, well, it definitely knocks out Magikarp, right? But it could also knock out Manaphy's. But for that, you would rather play like the Rotom. But yeah, I don't know. It's all right. It's not the worst card either, right? It has the ceiling. Being able to hit for 50, just having that ability puts it above bad in my opinion. And then the last electric Pokemon in this, or lightning, I forget which terminology exactly they use. I think it's lightning. Okay, yeah. Is Volt Switch for 3 energy, 70. Switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Well, one of your best bench lightning Pokemon. Would this be playable? In what world do you get this to 3 energy? Would you charge this Pachirisu? Probably not. You can't Lieutenant Surge to this. I like the idea of Volt Switch, and again, this falls back to like the innards, whatever, the Pukamuku, whatever it was called, where this seems like their introduction to this strategy, and they might like eventually expand on it. So for now, I would say it's mid, but the ceiling is definitely there. The ceiling's not there, but it definitely has a potential. The potential is there. There you go, and that's enough for and that's all the lightning Pokemon in this set. All right, when it comes to psychic types, there's actually quite a few in this set, so let's go rather quickly through them. We have Mr. Mime, Barrier Shove, flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage and effects done to this Pokemon. Where are you in this long list of cards? Fluff. Low key, it's technically just bad, I guess. Let's go with bad. But essentially, it's just a card that nobody's gonna use. I'll put it regardless. Realistically, the more I see is that bad and fluff kind of go together. But again, there is that distinguish like between Sandshrew and the rest of these cards. So let's go here, Sableye, Corner. Well, we know what Corner does, right? During your opponent's next turn, that's if any Pokemon can retreat. It is on a basic this time, and it does a little less damage. It does require 2 energy. I'm debating putting it in mid, but it's essentially bad. It's too weak. Although Corner is a great strategy. I mean attack. I guess if you corner, like, what would you corner turn 1? You know what? Let's put it in mid, because I guess there's a strategy where if you're able to corner something early, they'll get stuck and you take full advantage. Maybe like you a Moltres, maybe you just corner a Moltres before it could build up, and you like guarantee that second those 2 points there. I could see that working. Granted, they'll eventually build up that Moltres, but you force them to do so. So yeah, I could see this being playable based on depending on the format. That was quite a roller coaster of an opinion. Now we got Spoink. Shout out to Gen 3 through from Sableye on, right? Shout out to Gen 3 here. We got Spoink, which we talked about. It's just grabbing from the energy and charging. There was a card earlier that was doing that as well. As whether it was the Vulpix, right? The Alolan Vulpix. Let's see what it builds up to. 110, 70. This is just like the Lapras, but in a stage 1, right? So it's kind of technically worse. So I'm losing track of where I'm at in the in the list, but yeah, this is actually bad. Low key, just fluff, right? Just go with fluff. Lunatone, 90 damage, 50. It's essentially the same thing as the Brushes, right? I believe. Wherever it is, fluff. Then we have Shuppet, which is mean to an end. They love doing the 60-20. But Nightbind, 30. During your opponent's next turn, they can't take any energy from their energy zone and attach it to their active Pokemon. This is quite disruptive. Not as efficient as the not taking damage from EXs. And there's definitely ways to play around it, especially with strategies that are trying to like charge the backline and stuff. But let's say you're going if you're going second, you can't evolve it in time. Yeah, if it was on a basic, this card would be good to broken. I think it would be playable. It could be in certain matchups. I could see it being annoying, and I just like the creativity of like a card that does something different, right? And then we have Oricorio, the second version, I guess. Dazzle Dance, 40. Your opponent's active Pokemon is not confused. Confusion is like really good in Pokemon like Mismagius that could follow up if they hit you with Confusion, just knocking you out. This is essentially just mid. It technically could win you a game or something if you confuse something and just get stuck there, but realistically, it's not gonna happen. Then now we have this one though, which is like the night version. Spiteful Dance. It's essentially just revenge, right? If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 60 more. So it's a revenge that does 80. So it's not 100, but it's only 1 energy. So realistically, your opponent might not even know you're on this because you could just have it in your hand. They'll knock out your Pokemon, you put it on your bench, charge it for 1 energy, bring it out like through switching or whatever, and just attack as well. So this is going to be, I don't know if good, because the fact that it does hit only for 80, and we don't have like Lucario that would make Marshadow swing for 120. I'm gonna go with good. Anything with Wrench is gonna be good. Whether it's play or not, that's dependent on the format and dependent of the decks in the format, right? So on to the next one. We have Cutiefly. One thing I noticed about all these is the fact that it does have 0 retreat cost. So depending on what it builds up to, it's essentially like you see. This is it falls under like if Helio is mid, this guy is playable because not only is it a generic card that does 40 damage, it could also just swaps out of the way at any moment. However, it is rather weak in the Cutiefly version. I mean, when it's here for 30 HP. So you know what? Let's go right down to It's a mid. It is better than the Heliolisk though. But I'm liking that at least these are generic. Like you could use it in any deck. Having Psychic makes you have super effectiveness against like Lucarios and stuff. This does one-shot Riolu. Granted, in what situation will you have Riolu and they don't have any, like, will there be a Riolu and you'll be at this? Technically, if you go first, but technically that Riolu could have knocked you. It's a back and forth. Comfey. This is a card that I'm very much a fan of. As you can see here, it's Flower Shield. Each of your Pokemon have a Psychic Energy attached, recover from all special conditions, and can't be affected by any special conditions. This is huge for, funny enough, for specifically for my series of Expert Solo battle guides. Against with using the Togekiss, you have to go against the Muck, and the Muck loves putting static conditions. But you just have this Comfey in the bench, and you're good to go. That video will be out eventually, because I will go in the order of Expert Solo battle guides. That's like once again self-promoting, but this is definitely playable. As far as how good or not it'll be in actual metagaming, depends on how like relevant special conditions become. But yeah, as a card, it's definitely playable because whether it's competitive or in solo battles, it has its uses, which is more than most of the cards in the format. And in this, I could say, we have Sandy Gas, which is just a means to an end, which is Paddle Sand, 3 energy, 70 damage, 130. Fluff. I guess they do have to put it in the. I just wish they give it an effect, but yeah, it's essentially just bad. But it's also just whatever. We'll just it's bottom tier list. All right, now we have Mimikyu, 2 energy, 60 shadow hit. The attack also does 20 to one of your Pokemon. Why are we doing this? What's the? I was assuming Mimikyu would have some kind of like sturdy ability or something. This seems just terrible. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't see in which world would you put 2 energy on this, and then it also does 20 to one of your Pokemon. That's just crazy, right? What? I don't know. If I'm missing something on that Mimikyu, please comment down below. I would love to hear it. Tapu Lele, 1 energy arrow. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to that Pokemon. So technically, this like, if they start building up Gyarados and they don't have it built up yet, it's great. Also, if they do have a Gyarados, you can still pin it for damage, so that when they bring it out, your Gyarados, your Giratina or your Darkrai could knock it out. That's one way to look at this. Although, if you're playing Darkrai, you wouldn't be playing a Psychic Energy. So, this is playable. It has potential of being good, if not broken. But there's a lot of factors that go into like how good or bad this card will be. So I want to leave it at playable, although I do want to emphasize that it has potential of being good. Definitely not broken though. I think it's pretty balanced. One of the better Tapu cards that we have. Cosmog, it does what it has to do. Cosmoem. Technically, this card's irrelevant because you will be using Rare Candy. But technically, if you have it on board, it has the ability to essentially survive almost anything. But then we have Lunala EX. By the way, these also evolve into the Solgaleo, but we'll see that later on when we're going over metals. As far as Lunala EX, once during each of your turns, you can move all Psychic Energy from one of your bench to your active. And it does 100. This card, realistically, it depends on like where the format goes. In the Expert Solo Battle Guys, it has like a cute interaction with Giratina where the Giratina is like self-charging, and then all of a sudden you're just like, boom, all the energy. I feel like this as a... The issue is like, yeah, if it was a basic Pokemon, it'd be insane. Like if you dropped its HP to like 140 and it was just a basic, Mewtwo, Giratina, Lunala list would be insane. However, having to find the Lunala, I want to put it in a playable. It's hard for me to say that it's good. Because technically it is good, but it being stage 2, you having to build it up, and then all it does is 100 damage. I don't know. Maybe I'm proven wrong. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I don't like cards being bad, but yeah, I'll put it in a playable, and that's like the ceiling I see for it, right? That's like as good as it gets. And then we have Necrozma, 4 energy. During your next turn, this Pokemon can attack. For 4 energy, this is 120. I guess mid. Like, because doing 120 in a basic is huge, but not being able, like doing it once and then not. Would you technically find a way to do it the way the Leafeon? Would you play with this with like the way people were playing Leafeon? Where you would, like, let's say leaf this out into a fossil, punt the fossil, and then swing 120 again? Maybe, but then building it up to 4 energy. I'm gonna go with mid. It's basically bad, but that's all the Psychic Pokemon in this set. For fighting, we start with Cubone, which is 2 colorless energy because it's meant to build up into the Alolan Marowak, which is a fire type. But other than that, it doesn't do much. Makuhita, 70 HP 20 is a little slightly, as you saw, technically on average better than the generic basic Pokemon, but what it leads up to is stage 1 Hariyama, 2 energy, push out 50 damage, switch out your opponent's active to your bench. This card is interesting. Technically, it could one-shot Mana Feast eventually, but also it's interesting. I would say I want to put it in playable because I could see just it being for 2 energy, being on a stage 1, 120 HP is respectable. And it's just for 2. So basically, it's a perfect curve. You go Hariyama, poke for some damage, then you go, Makuhita, and then you go into Hariyama. If you'll see any play, who am I to say? But it could definitely be annoying, constantly switching your stuff around. You go Sabrina, playing your Cyrus, and then you makes your Cyrus viable later on. I could see this card seeing some play, especially in just like fighting a toolbox decks. Then we have a Soul Rock, which is 90 HP, 2 energy, 60. This is a fluff pile. Granted, is it better than just fluff? Nah, I can't put myself to say it is. I'd rather be wrong. All right, Drillbur, it goes into Excadrill, but we'll see that again in the metals. Then we have Timber, your generic 60 HP, 20 attack, goes into 90, 40, which doesn't matter because all of these stage 2s, you have to think about like, okay, rare candy. So how good are they with rare candy? We have Guts, which I already read this because I did open some packs. If this Pokemon would be knocked out by damage from an attack, flip a coin. If heads, this Pokemon is not knocked out and its remaining HP becomes 10. Why call this Guts when there's like abilities like Sturdy in the game? Granted, I'm aware that the card game and the video game are not 1-to-1, but since there is a Guts ability that makes you like stronger if you have a status condition, why would they use it on some whatever? That's enough talking about that. Technically, Mega Punch, 3 energy, 80 makes it where like the rare candy is less viable because it's not like you could go into this and then attack, but its ability of flipping a coin and then having technically not getting knocked out, I could see this being rather like having some fun gameplay. That's like a Mega Mogwai video waiting to happen, so we'll give that playable. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that video. We have Crabrawler, which is what actually makes it's something I didn't bring up when talking about Crabominable or whatever. Hopefully I pronounced it close enough there. Execute is like super like weak to Skarmories, any fire Pokemon like a Legend can one-shot it. There's a lot of Pokemon and a lot of things that could get a Carnivine with an Arceus in the back that knock out Execute. Crabrawler is 70 HP is actually very respectable. The fact that it's a different type altogether makes it where like if they have lightning type Pokemon, you actually have like if you're going against your weakness in terms of like okay that you're weak to water. I mean your water Pokemon is weak to lightning. Is it weak to lightning? No, I'm tripping. It's technically an ice type, right? It's weak to metal instead. I don't know. Point is, this is much more resilient than an Execute, thus making it even that much better. Let's go to Rockruff. There's 2 Rockruffs, similar to all the starter Pokemon. Signs of Evolution, put a random card that evolves into Rockruff. There is 2 different Lycanrocs to your hand, and then the other one is your standard. I guess this is like a Sprigatito that says exclusively like get my evolution. So I guess that makes it playable, or it actually just depends on how good the Lycanrocs are, which we have 3 energy crunch, 80 damage, flip a coin. If heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. That seems pretty decent, right? We have the Rockruff that searches. It is the nighttime one, right? Yep. So we have Rockruff that searches. I'll put it on the playable next to the Lycanroc that essentially could take down an energy. And then we have this one, Bloodfang. It attacks sooner for just 2 energy, 50 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon has more remaining HP than this Pokemon, this does 50 more, so it could hit for 100. I believe this whole line falls under playable. It's definitely fun, right? And like I said, the whole thing about this, the whole reason for me adding this, like getting rid of the fun rogue, is that it essentially fuses with what playable stands for, right? It's not going to be meta defining. It's not like the craziest thing. That's what good and broken are for. Playable is definitely an answer for this. We got Mudbray, means to an end for Mudsdale. 4 energy, high horsepower, 140. This Pokemon also does 40 to itself. The damage is great. Charging up to 4 energy seems crazy, and not being able to get it out for a while is kind of I'm gonna go with mid on this one. Then we have Passimian EX. I'm actually a big fan of this one. Let's just outright put it in good, and then we'll talk about it. 2 energy, seismic toss. Yes, it doesn't do too much damage, but offload pass. If this Pokemon's in the active spot is knocked out by an opponent's attack, move all fighting energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched. So essentially, you could have this set up, it gets knocked out, and you immediately have your Marshadow set up, or they could knock this out, and then Lucario EX actually becomes viable, because one of the issues with Lucario EX was building it up. But if you go straight into building up a Simeon EX and then they knock it out, and now you have a Lucario EX swinging for 100, that starts adding up. Honestly, I'm a big fan of this card. I don't have any initial brews off the top of my head. I haven't taken the time to do so. I'm still like putting time and energy to not only solving solo battles, but also collecting all the cards. I can't make a deck if I don't have everything. So that's where I'm at with that. But I do believe the potential is there, and I'm a big fan of what this card is capable of doing. And then the last fighting Pokemon we have is Minior. 2 energy star drop. This attack does 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. We've seen this with Electabuzz. I believe that card's playable, so I believe this one's playable. As far as being good, would this replace him only? Probably not. But it could. Like if I guess it becomes a preference thing. I'll put it under playable. I don't want to put it good. I don't think it's like meta defining, nothing like that, nothing crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with that. Let's jump into the dark types. All right, so for darkness types, we start with Alolan Rattata, which is just a means to an end, and we have Alolan Eradicate, which 2 darkness energy, scrounge and scarf, 50 damage. Discard a random item card from your opponent's hand. Back to like the Vivivol or Vikivol, whatever it's called. Items do not include supporters. It's not like discard a trainer card, but discard an item card. So like if they see you playing this, they're forced to play out cards rather like earlier than what they would want to, I guess. If it did hit supporters, it would definitely be good or broken. I do believe it's playable though. I could see some interesting plays with that this deck as a whole. As far that leads us to Alolan Meowth, standard 60-20. That leads to Alolan Persian, 100 HP, 50 damage for 2. This Pokemon takes 20 damage from minus 20 from attacks. Mid, right? This is the definition of mid in my opinion. So let's go where is it? Oops. Mid. Yeah, let's go mid there. Now we have Alolan Grammar, means to an end. Alolan Muck, 3 darkness energy, does 80 damage, 160 HP, a stage 1. 1 special condition from among sleep, burned, confusion, paralyzed, and poison, chosen at random. And your opponent's active Pokemon is not affected by that special condition. Any that it already has will not be chosen. So it's not like it'll go. It's not like if it's poisoned, it'll just like and hit poison again, nothing happens. It will for sure hit one of the other ones. So honestly, the total randomness of this card is what kind of like puts me off, but also puts me onto it. I'm gonna put it. Is it good? 3 energy. It's a little slow. Rare Candy makes it where other Pokemon are just it'll be just as fast. Dude, I want it to be good so bad that I'm gonna try to like will it to existence. I want this card to be good. It's definitely troll, and I don't really see how like the best way of playing it. I guess I'll go playable because it's just a fun rogue matchup basically. Is how I'll look at it. Depending on the format, granted, like it hits Giratina for 100, and then the special condition. So there's definitely a ceiling there. Like there's definitely potential, which is why I want to put it in good. But we'll be realistic. I'd rather it prove me wrong than like put it under good and it's just like sees 0 play. Then we have Absol, Unseen Claw, 20 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by a special condition, it does 60 more. I'm thinking like it is on a basic. Like there's no basic that has like Psy Shock or whatever. Like it doesn't have Venoshock. So like the attack that the Genetic Apex Rammer has. I mean, Muck has or Scolipede, but this is like a mini version of it. But it's only hitting for 80. I guess it's playable. I guess it's playable because like if it's a more like consistent way of seeing that. Although just 80 damage seems rather low. I don't know. Like technically, if you poison with coughing, with wheezing, bounce it back, bring this out. You're hitting for 10, 90. It's a little slow. I'm gonna go with mid. I want it to be good, but I just don't see it. Then we have Trubbish, means to an end, 60-20. Garbodor, super poison breath, 70. Your opponent's active Pokemon is not poisoned. This is just bad. It's fluff. It's all of the above. Let's just go here. Having to wait to 3 energy to do poison is absurd in a world where we've had wheezing since set 1. But whatever. On to the next thing, which is Marini. 70 HP, 20 damage is again in the higher scale of things for basic Pokemon like that. But 110. This is honestly the ceiling is technically 1 energy, 80 damage. Mathematically, I don't know what the math is. I guess it's considered, I guess on average you'll hit for 40, right? Which puts it a little higher HP. I'm gonna put it on mid, but its ceiling is definitely on broken if you're hitting 80 for just 1 energy on a stage 1. But yeah, it's a little bit better. I'll put it in the same scenario as other like Rapidashes that aren't Rapidashes, I guess. And that's all for the Dark Metals. We have only I think it's like 7 cards to look at, but we have Alolan Diglett. It's one of those means to an end. It goes into Alolan Dugtrio for 2 energy, Iron Head 70 times. Flip a coin until you get tails. This attack the 70 times for each heads. A little too high rolling for me. I'm gonna go with mid, although it'll definitely have some like fun replays that you'll see out there. Then we have Excadrill. This is it's essentially a Rapidash, but it's one step above because it has more HP and it does a flat 50 rather than 40. So if these are mid, I guess this would also be mid. Yeah, I guess when you have Skarmory doing it off the bat, it starts getting like a lot worse, right? So yeah, we have to put this in mid. Although I'm a big fan of Excadrill as a card, like not as a card, as a Pokemon. We have Escavalier that evolves from the I already forgot the Pokemon name, but we saw that at the beginning. It was just a Pokemon that wasn't doing anything. But 1 energy, 1 metal energy, Pike, 30 damage. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Essentially, if this is mid, if the Pokemon we just saw was mid, this is essentially a little bit better in my opinion because it does spread the damage. But then if they only have 1 Pokemon, it doesn't do. So I guess it's the equivalent of this. So it's like another Excadrill. Even the artworks kind of look the same, right? If you look at it side by side, it looks like a Excadrill that put like full body armor. But whatever. On to the next thing, which is Klefki. We've seen this before with Meowth. What other card draws? Sigilyph, I think also. Yeah. Technically playable, right? If you're playing a metal Pokemon, like a metal deck. Is it like your first choice? Probably not, but it doesn't make it like a bad card. It's definitely playable. Then we have Solgaleo, which we already saw what evolves into it earlier in the Psychic type part of the video. Rising Road, once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch it to your active. That's huge. And for only 2 energy, hitting for 120. The 10 damage to yourself when you have 108 HP. I think this card's gonna be. I want to say the reason I don't want to say it's broken is because it is a stage 2 that without rare candy, it's rather slow. And then realistically, it's honestly it could prove me wrong. It could be like another Giratina. Giratina's technically doing 130 with the self ramp. This doesn't self ramp, but it's not a basic, right? If it was a basic Pokemon, clearly be way too good. If we were doing like a good in order, this would be in the top of good. But it's definitely good. Borderline broken, based on like how the format develops, right? 120 on a stage 2, but there's rare candy. Thanks to rare candy is why this would be any good. And then Magearna, 2 metal energy, silver cannon, 40 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon has an ability, it does 80 instead. I guess it's playable, but it's also very meta dependent. I think it starts falling. The fact that it needs 2 energy also, it starts falling under mid more than anything. That's not the right Pokemon. Where did I grab? Okay, here. Yeah. I would say it's mid. It's close to playable, but I think it just falls short from being like that option that you pick. I could be wrong about this one. This is one of those where I will admit I'm borderline between it being a little bit better, but I just don't see it seeing play. Granted, like those 2 energy or energies that you could put to Solgaleo and stuff like that. So let's go on to. Actually, that's it for metal. So let's go to dragon types. All right, Celestial Garden only has 4 dragons, starting with Drampa, which is basic Pokemon, 2 generics, is pretty good. Berserk 20 plus. If any of your bench Pokemon have damage on them, this attack does 50 more. So total of 70 on a basic for 2 colors. I honestly, it has no weakness. I guess that's a decent thing. I don't know where to put this, if I'm being honest. I guess it gets mid, because more often than not, it's just doing 20 HP, which is not ideal whatsoever. Then we have Yan, I don't know how to pronounce that, but you know your standard 60-20, which leads into Electric Fighting, Dragon Claw, 60 damage. I guess this entire line depends on what it leads up to, which is Komodo, just the same 2 energy, so it's similar to the Garchomp. The standard Garchomp, not the EX one. Clanging Scales, 130. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes an extra 30 damage from attacks. So it's essentially, imagine Rampardos that doesn't take the damage immediately once it knocks something out. That's the way of looking at this. There's no Lucario to make your attack stronger, but it is a stage. You could essentially rare candy into this, skipping the middle ground completely. Your first form is attacking regardless of the energy you have. It's going to be limited by the fact that it's a dragon that requires 2 specific energies. But I think it's safe to say that this is mid. like it would be playable if it wasn't a dragon type. Basically, is what I'm saying. If it wasn't limited, like if it wasn't for the dual energy, I would see this card being a lot better than it is. And the fact that Rampardos exists, you would just play Rampardos over any of this. But yeah, decent card realistically. So let's jump into colorless. All right, starting with colorless, we have Tauros, rising lunge 50, flip a coin. If head, this does 50 more damage. This has to be fluff. You know how many Tauros we already have? They're all 3 energy. They all, and that's. I don't think that. I think the Mythical Island was better, and it came out like how many sets ago? We're in set what 1, 2, 3. We're in set 6, and it came out 4 sets ago. But whatever. Skitty, the 60-20 standard. We have Delcatty for 1 energy assist, 30 damage. Take 1 colorless energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. I think this has to be playable because it ramps anything. The only thing is like this is like the first we see of colorless energy, which I know it's basically going to be if your Pokemon needs X amount of energy, as long as it's not type specific, this is going to help ramp it in any form. So it's basically generic ramp for any card, right? And when you put it like that, this has to be playable. I mean, it has to be good. Whether it sees play or not, it depends on a lot of factors, basically, like what needs ramp, what could use colorless ramp, and so on. But yeah, I believe it's decent. The fact that it's on stage 1 completely like mitigates the fact that it is generic. So maybe it falls under playable, but anything that's ramp has been proven to be good. So I'm gonna believe this is good. Now we have Fletchling, which we saw that we bought. We put where did we place the Talonflame? We put it in mid. All right, we have Halucha, colorless justified press 20 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a darkness type, this attack does 30 more. I want to say mid because what do you punish in darkness by hitting it for 50? Feel free to comment down below what. Actually, no, it makes it just bad. Yeah, it's a bad card in my opinion. Unless there's a target that I'm not thinking of. I guess it's like because yeah, there's Carnivine. Like you could 3-shot a Darkrai. I don't know. Doesn't seem valid. Then we have Pick-a-Peck, standard, actually less under standard. It has 50 HP rather than 60. Drumbeak, essentially just a Rapidash. And then we have 2 Cannon. Excuse me, technically Rare Candy would make this an on-crack Rapidash. Hitting for 70 for 140 HP. It's just the 1 energy requirement. I'll put it in mid because of like there's so many other cards have such a higher ceiling, especially in the stage 2 department. But a 1 prizer 140 that hits for 70 for just 1 energy seems pretty decent, at least from the outside looking in. Then we have Yungoos, the standard 60-20, evolving into Gumshoes, 150. This is brutal. This is terrible. I would put it in fluff, but it's worse than fluff. It's bad. It's bad. All right. Then we have Stuffle, a basic 3 energy. What? This evolves into Beware, 130 HP. How much did this have? 70. 130. This Pokemon is now confused. So it's essentially better than Snorlax in the fact that it does more damage. However, sleep is much easier to get rid of confusion. Although if you're playing Pokemon Center Lady, none of it matters. However, there's no berry that lets you attack sooner with Beware. So that's why I'll put this in mid, regardless of the ceiling being pretty high up there. Where do I have Beware? Right here. Mid. Now we have Oranguru, whatever. 2 colorless, Primate Stripe, 40. During your opponent's next turn, attacks used by defending Pokemon cost 1 more, and its retreat cost is also 1 more. This could be pretty ignorant, honestly. I'm gonna put it under good. Like if any of these like anti-meta cards are somewhat relevant, this one has to be up there. It's generic. It slows down your opponent by a turn probably. And it would definitely fall under playable. I just want to put it in good because it being generic, right? Like if Banette was generic, it'd be up here. If what else? I feel like there's something else that was anti-meta, but yeah. I guess the thing that's already in good. It's not. I don't think it's as good as not taking damage from EXs, but I could definitely see this being like ignorant. Like imagine if you're going and you hit a Moltres, they're forced to charge it to 2 if they want to dance. So that slows them down. That's one way to look at it. If it's the turn before they're gonna like get out and attack, now they need 3 energy to run away. Like I could see this being good. Granted, like my only example was okay. How about hitting a Manaphy? If you hit a Manaphy with this, like although you could, if you're doing that to a Manaphy, you might as well like try to knock it out. But whatever. Let's go on to the last Pokemon, Kamala. As long as Comatose, as long as this Pokemon is in the active, whenever you attach an energy from your energy zone to it, it is now asleep. If I'm wrong, please comment down below. Jump into the item cards. We have Big Malasada. Heal 10 damage and remove a random special condition from your active Pokemon. So it's a mini Pokemon Center Lady / mini potion that doesn't require you. So it's basically a mini Pokemon Center Lady that does not require you to use your supporter, is what I'm trying to say. So I definitely believe this is playable. Whether it'll be, I guess it depends on your deck. Like, I feel like the deck space being 20 is what will limit this card. Otherwise, you'll probably see a lot of play. But if status conditions become like very relevant, I could see this card being like seeing play even above like potions. Potion was like a staple in the best deck last format, so who knows. Then we have Fishing Net. Put a random basic water Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. This also falls under playable. I was a big fan on paper of the Grand Elder Lady, or whatever the exact name, I forget right now. And it basically sees 0 play. It saw a little bit of play on the Lake Trio. So this might be just mid, realistically, but on paper, essentially being able to grab a water Pokemon from your yard, salvage, if you know, you know. Yeah, I believe it has like some merit to it, right? Then we have Rare Candy. Everybody knows what we think about Rare Candy. It's broken. Whether it completely ruins the game or it's the stage 2 Pokemon, I mean, decks will for sure be using Rare Candy, and they'll be sure better for it and better because of it. And deck building becomes a little easier. You get to cut down on your stage 1s that weren't doing much to begin with in most situations. So yeah, Rare Candy's crazy, and we'll see it everywhere in the format for sure. Like I could almost like guarantee it. So there's not much else to say about that. It's just great. Rotom Dex is 100% better than Pokedex, but it doesn't necessarily make it good. So we'll put it in mid. It's not bad. Being able to shuffle after looking, I'm sure some people will find use for it. Now we have Poison Barb. This card is definitely good in my opinion. I've yet to like use it again in PvP, but in a few expert solo battles, I did use this card. If this Pokemon does, if a Pokemon attached to this gets attacked, instead of like Rocky Helmet, you're actually poisoning them. So it's, if like, Rocky Helmet is good, will it be as good as Rocky Helmet? Debatable, especially with Pokemon Center Lady and other status condition like counters. Again, depending on how popular those see play. But yeah, definitely a good card. It's just, I think, a tier below a Rocky Helmet, and I would put Rocky Helmet in broken. Maybe I didn't do it in when the card came out, but like in hindsight, it's Rocky Helmet's broken. Then we have Leaf Cape. Grass Pokemon get the extra. This is also good, if not borderline broken. If Cape is seeing play everywhere, this would see play everywhere. The reason I don't want to call this broken is because it is locked to just grass Pokemon, so it's not like universally broken. But technically, it is close to that tier. But yeah, again, great card, and that's it for the items that are not supporters. And I'm glad we saw a few new tools. We didn't see any tools since they released Lumberry, Helmet, and Cape. So glad to see a few more. And I'm looking forward to how tools continue to evolve. We even saw an answer to them, which we'll go into when we look at supporters. All right, so this set has 8 supporters, starting with Acerola, or Acerola. Choose one of your Palosands or Mimikyus that have damage on it and move 40 of its damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that starts making more sense as to why this Mimikyu hurts itself. Palosand does not hurt itself. Palosand's just straight damage. I want to say this is pretty mid because although the concept, again, this is one of those where like if they expand on it, it could definitely lead to some ignorant stuff. In the physical TCG, now I forget the name of the Pokemon, but it's an ape that if it has like it transfers 3 energy, like 3 damage from your Pokemon to their Pokemon, and it's very ignorant. Like it's a very strong like card in the current meta. So like the concept is very good. However, the way a Pocket is using it is definitely not good enough in my opinion. So definitely mid, but the concept is definitely has potential, right? And then we go to Elima. Put one of your colorless Pokemon that has damage on it into your hand. So it's technically a Koga or an Expeditioner or budding Expeditioner, but your colorless Pokemon requires to have damage. However, I feel like this is going to be playable. I would put it in good. What separates it from being good is what Pokemon land under, like what you could bounce back. And currently off the top of my head, I don't have the answers directly. So I don't want to like commit to it. I guess Arceus, but do you really want to bounce an Arceus with 3 energy? Like, yes, you don't take the 2 damage, so that's one way of looking at it. I mean, the 2 points, like you don't give them 2 points, but still like being step back 3 energy, unless you're like playing Dialga Arceus again. But that deck didn't do anything earlier, so I'm gonna put it in playable. It does have potential of being good as cards release or as strategies become like more relevant or come back. It has a higher ceiling, but let's go to Kiawe, I think is how you pronounce this one. Choose one of your lone Marowaks or Eternities, take 2 fire energies, and attach it to that Pokemon, then your turn ends. So it's a Volkner that's bad, basically. So we'll put it in mid. Volkner, great ability. I think the Volkner's targets are better than Kiawe's targets. And the fact that it ends the turn, I guess, is like they're seeing like maybe Volkner was a little too broken. And they got lucky that the Pokemon that Volkner is like supporting weren't too out of hand, didn't get out of hand. But yeah, the ceiling, much lower for Kiawe, so mid. Then we have Guzma. And I'm not doing this because I pulled the immersive and I think it looks amazing. I think this card's broken. Tools were such a big part of our past format, and with 2 new tools being introduced, especially Poison Barb, that I believe is very like generic and very usable. Cards like Guzma or Guzma, however you want to pronounce it, are very likely to be very strong. At least one of us, and it's gonna be constantly like in and out of like deck list, as like if this card gets too popular, people cut down on their tools. And then eventually, if people cut down on their tools, they'll cut down on Guzma or Guzma, and it'll be like this basically this not necessarily like a swing. What's the man? What happened to my childhood? A seesaw effect, basically. Like as people play Guzma, they play less tools. As people play more tools, they play this card less. I mean, as this card sees less play, tools see a rise, and vice versa. And we'll see that keep bouncing back and forth. But I'm a big fan of the card. Tools do get out of hand. The fact that we had no answers to them was kind of absurd, other than like a Starly that nobody was going to play. So seeing it in a supporter card that just removes all of them. So now you have to be like careful on how you attach. It becomes much more skillful. Like you could have tools still, but you want to only commit one to like your active Pokemon and hold on the other ones. It's a very interesting like dynamic to the game that this card adds. Then we have Lana, which is a card that I was referring to earlier with the Araquanid, which basically you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot no matter what. They have no choice as long as you have an Araquanid somewhere in play. So this card is definitely good as far as like how usable it will be. Depends on how seamlessly you could put Araquanid into your list. So like the card itself on paper is good. It most likely will land under playable to mid due to the fact that Araquanid is not good enough. But if Araquanid was too good, then this card would be too good. So I understand why they did it the way they did. Now we're looking at Sophocles. I don't know how to pronounce the man's name. During this turn, attacks used by your Alolan Golem, Vikavolt, Togedemaru do 30 plus damage. So I think, what is that? The Golem's doing like 180, I think it is. And then losing the 2 energy, Togedemaru does 50 plus the 30. And then you have Vikavolt was doing 70, I think. But Vikavolt's good. What made Vikavolt good was the fact that it was like stalling your item cards. So I guess if the cards like Vikavolt is playable, where did we put a Togedemaru in mid? I guess if you could make the Togedemaru hit for 50 specifically, you know what, I'm gonna put Togedemaru to playable alongside its supporter. I feel like that definitely makes sense. And then we have Malo, which is the one that goes with the Shiinotic that I mentioned earlier, and Serena. Okay, heal all damage from one of your Shiinotic or Serenas if you discard all energy from that Pokemon. Serena does only use 1 energy, so that's decent, and being able to heal it all the way back up is pretty good. However, as a whole, these cards are all right. I guess Serena with its ability, with its trainer, is playable because it is a 1-pointer basic Pokemon. I mean, not basic, 1-pointer stage 2 that you can evolve into, has like 130 HP. It's almost like a Masquerade could heal fully, and then only 1 energy is attacking again. Serena and Model, I can see seeing some play or being somewhat relevant. And then the last card that we will talk about in this video is Lily. We saw in the other immersive art, heal 60 from one of your stage 2s. Stage 2s are going to be everywhere. I do believe this card is going to be good. Being able to heal 60 is insane. Generically being in stage 2, there'll be cards like Venusaur that have Erica, Lily, like Pokemon Center Lady. There's so much healing in the format. You have a cape for 30 HP. Like, can you even knock out a Venusaur anymore? I don't know. And technically you could work Candidate out. Granted, Venusaur needs a lot of energy, so whatever. That's neither here nor there. Actually, based on like the curve, the fact that Ivysaur needed 3 energy to attack anyways. Okay, whatever. That's a lot of talking about Venusaur, which I don't even know if we'll see play. Basically, all these cards here are essentially fluff. Everything that's left is like borderline fluff. But yeah, this is my final tier list. Honestly, I'm stand corrected. Let me scroll down a little bit, see what we had left. All of these are like stage basics and stage 1s for evolution lines, so I don't feel too bad about how many Pokemon got left outside of the tier list. As far as the fluff, there's actually a lot less than I was expecting to see at the end of everything. I thought a lot more cards were falling into there. Maybe I was being a little too lenient with certain cards, but I do agree with my takes so far. From like in hindsight, clearly a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, when the next set drops, we'll have a much clearer picture on how well or how badly or poorly I judged all these cards. However, I feel pretty good about where I put everything in this set. Feel free again once to comment down below and let me know what you think about not only my opinion but this set as a whole. What cards are you excited to see? What cards do you think I underestimated? Which ones am I overestimating? And if you've reached this far into the video, honestly, I appreciate you. This is this video got a lot longer than I expected it would be. I think once I started and saw that it was 155 cards, I was like, yikes. But hopefully it was entertaining, or it was at some form insightful. And as always, if you enjoy the video or enjoy all things Pokemon Pocket, I post everything from tier lists like this to expert solo battle guides, deck breakdowns. The list goes on and on and on. And I just appreciate y'all watching, and above all else, stay pro.